Ruben Amorim has spoken to the press about Marcus Rashford, saying he is ready for a new challenge. And his response was absolutely perfect, if you ask me.
This kind of club needs big talent, and he's a big talent. So we just need to perform at the highest level, and that is my focus. I just want to help Marcus.
Let me run through what Amorim had to say and what we can expect to happen next. I think Ruben Amorim has been really impressive, not only with the tactics that he's brought to the team, but also in how he's carried himself. All right? And his response to Rashford, I think, is particularly impressive. In what was a tricky situation, he's decided to diffuse rather than to put more fuel on the fire. I want to speak about it in this video because after beating City, the story was always going to be, what's the reaction and response from Garnacho and Rashford? And we now know what the response is from Rashford because we've already seen and heard the interview where he said, in no uncertain terms, for me personally, I think I'm ready for a new challenge and the next steps. Now, for me, looking at that, I saw that in no uncertain terms. That Rashford is ready to leave Manchester United and find a new challenge, because if you are a committed United player or just a committed player in any football club, you wouldn't say that. You would just say, I'm committed, I'm staying here. Let's see what he brings next. But Amorim chose the other angle. And I think that's where it's just a real indication of what Amorim's natural thought process is. And probably why so many players have loved working under him at Sporting. Him saying here that, look, if you want to talk about the challenge of bringing United back to the top, that's the biggest in football. And I completely agree with him. And I've been saying that for a while because it's just the truth. All right. Whether or not Rashford has the energy to be involved in this challenge, having also been involved in that same challenge under multiple managers before, that's questionable. And I would say, no, I don't think he does. Hence why he came out with that comment. But just hearing from Amorim on, just listen to him here on Rashford. And he could have gone the complete other way if he wanted to, but he decided not to.
I spoke with a lot of players individually and during trainings. What I want is to take the best of Marcus Rashford as all the players. So I don't talk about the future, I just talk about the present. I want the best of each one of them. And that is the key point for me. I just want to win and to help the team to be better. So we are better with Marcus Rashford, and that's simple. And we try different things to push Marcus to the best level that he's shown in the past. So that's all.
Amorim, look, he's been likeable since day one, but being likeable doesn't win you titles, doesn't turn football clubs around. But his persona and the way he's carried himself as A, being impressive, and B, being extremely consistent. And we're all, I think, as United fans, starting to understand why he was able to build that sort of bond with the players, why he was able to build that sort of bond with the fans and that bond with the club. And in terms of the consistency, it's this message here which always stood out to me ahead of the derby. Oh, no, not ahead of the derby, when he was asked about Garnacho and Rashford being left out. When people at the club are losing jobs, we have to put the standards really high. The way you train is really important. And he's applied that logic to every player. And when you've got shining examples like Ahmad, who, in terms of adversity and things he's had to overcome, probably more. In terms of injuries over the last couple of years, the loan spell he had away from the football club, then being completely overlooked by the manager in the place of Anthony. Well, it's not about more or less adversity, but they've all had to deal with adversity. Every player does. It's part of life, unfortunately. But Ahmad has been a shining example of a player that's really bought in to what Amorim has asked him to do. And unfortunately for Garnacho and Rashford, are two players who have not bought in to what he has asked them to do. Hence, by using the same standards across the entire club, they've been pushed to the sideline. However, it's not something that Amorim feels will affect the dressing room. This is just a natural position for him to try and diffuse rather than light the fire. Asked whether the Rashford comments are going to cause problems in the dressing room. The press would love that, trying to put words in his mouth. He goes, I was a player. I was selfish. I didn't really care what was going on. I was just focused on what I could do. And he's already thrown the gauntlet back down towards Garnacho and Rashford. After these comments from Rashford, Amorim could have very much kind of just frozen Rashford out. I'm being totally honest, I thought that's what he might have done. I think it might be what I would have done. Because if I feel a United player doesn't have his heart committed to the role, to being a United player, then you're kind of swimming upstream. But instead, he's laid the gauntlet back out to them. And I just think we all hoped, not knew. We all hoped that after Erik ten Hag and the struggles that we had as fans when it came to communication, when it came to understanding and the clarity of what his ideas were and how they came across, Ruben Amorim's absolutely excelled in that sense. And I think this one in particular was an opportunity, and no United fan would have had a go at him for it. If he wanted to, it could have approached this very, very differently to how he has. But instead, he's thrown the challenge back down to Rashford. Not in a way that sort of demeans him. I don't really think this is a situation that will be turned around. I think for Rashford to say that as a Manchester United Academy player who's been here for 20-odd years, for him to say, for me, feels like I'm ready for a new challenge, is an acceptance from him that he's ready to leave the club. And also, probably likely, is the fact that he's already been told that the club is considering moving him on. So it's kind of like, I already covered this in a separate video. It's just the fact that I'm really impressed by how consistently Amorim is deciding to side with the players, even in the face of adversity. And he said that from the beginning. He goes, I won't physically take bullets for them, but that was a reputation that he built at Sporting, and why the players on the pitch were willing to do stuff for Amorim and his team that maybe other players weren't, because of what he was doing for them. And it kind of goes hand in hand, if you want to call it. The respect between the players and the manager and the head coach in our sense, and vice versa. I just thought it was a perfect way to respond. I don't really feel like it changes his mind. I'm not particularly sure he's trying to, but I suppose he kind of is, because right now, if he can have Rashford playing well, it makes United a better team. Now, you can let me know what you think about this in the comments below, but yeah, I think it's just another example that we've got the right man in Amorim.